These criminals made billions, escaped prison, brainwashed people, and even caused world wars. From drug lords and cult leaders to cyber hackers and terrorists, today we're diving into the craziest, scariest, and most unbelievable crimes ever. So stick around, because what you're about to hear is 100% real. Let's start with someone whose name literally became a symbol of crime, Pablo Escobar. If you've ever heard stories about drug lords living like kings, chances are it's because of this guy.
En estos instantes les voy a exhibir el visitar ese país. Además, soy un visitante asiduo.
In the 1980s, Pablo Escobar ran the Medellin cartel in Colombia, and it wasn't just big, it was massive. He was responsible for over 80% of the cocaine that was smuggled into the US and other countries. His cartel was making around $420 million every week. He had so much money that he didn't even bother counting the losses. It's said that rats used to eat over $2 billion of his cash every year in his secret hideouts. And he didn't care. It was just extra money lying around. But Escobar wasn't just about money and drugs. What made him so scary was his power. He had police officers, judges, politicians, even government officials on his payroll. He basically bought his way into power. In fact, he even ran for Congress in Colombia and almost made it. Things took a dark turn when the government finally tried to stop him. Escobar responded with violence. He ordered assassinations, bombings, and even brought down a commercial plane just to kill one person on board. He created chaos everywhere. Eventually, his crimes caught up with him. After years of searching, a special task force finally tracked him down. In 1993, he was found hiding in a neighborhood and was shot on a rooftop while trying to escape. But Escobar wasn't the only criminal who shocked the world. Up next is someone who didn't need money or an army, just charm and lies. Let's talk about Ted Bundy.
Theodore Robert Bundy, you are charged, indictment, 2 counts burglary, 2 counts murder in the first degree, 3 counts attempted murder in the first degree.
Back in the 1970s, Ted used his charm like a superpower. He'd wear a fake arm cast or pretend his car was broken, then politely ask young women for help. Because he seemed harmless, they agreed, only to vanish forever. Police eventually tied him to more than 30 murders across several US states, but experts think the real number could be well over 60. Bundy wasn't just brutal, he was a master manipulator. While in custody, he actually escaped twice. First time, he jumped out of a courthouse window during a break. Seriously, he just leapt and ran. They caught him 6 days later, but the second escape was even wilder. He lost weight, squeezed through a hole in the ceiling of his jail cell, and walked right out the front door of the sheriff's residence. For weeks after that, no one even realized he was gone. During his trial, Bundy pulled another stunt. He fired his lawyers and defended himself. That let him question witnesses and see the evidence, feeding his ego. On TV, he came off calm, joking with reporters like he was some celebrity. Viewers were freaked out. How can someone so polite describe such awful crimes with a straight face? The creepiest part is how ordinary Bundy looked. He wasn't the stereotype of a monster. He blended into crowds, studied law, even had a long-term girlfriend who had no idea what he was doing late at night. After years of trials, Bundy finally got the death penalty. On January 24, 1989, he was executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison. Reporters outside said the crowd actually cheered when the news broke. People were that relieved. If Bundy used charm to kill, this next guy used words and mind games. Here comes Charles Manson.
Breaking news, Charles Manson, the infamous cult leader who led a string of murders in the 1960s, is dead.
Charles Manson is one of the most disturbing criminals in American history. And what's crazy is he never actually harmed anyone himself. But still, his name is connected to some of the most horrifying murders ever. Why? Because he convinced other people to kill for him. In the late 1960s, Manson formed a group of followers, mostly young women who felt lost or rejected by society. He called them the Manson family. They lived together on an abandoned movie set in California, took drugs, and saw Manson as their spiritual leader. He had a powerful way of manipulating people, making them believe that he was a kind of prophet or savior. Manson believed a race war was coming, and he called it Helter Skelter. a name he took from a Beatles song. He told his followers that by committing shocking murders, they could spark this war and take control afterward. Sounds completely insane, right? But his followers believed every word. In August 1969, Manson sent a few of his followers to the home of actress Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant. That night, they brutally murdered her and 4 others. The next night, they harmed 2 more people. The murders were so violent and random that the entire country was shaken. Even though Manson didn't physically commit the murders, he planned everything and told his followers exactly what to do. That made him just as guilty in the eyes of the law. In 1971, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Charles Manson died in prison in 2017, but his story is still taught as a warning about how powerful brainwashing can be. Now, from cults to dictators, this next name changed the world forever and left behind one of the darkest chapters in human history. Let's talk about Adolf Hitler.
We'll be endlessly fascinated by what A, drove him, and B, why the German people decided to follow him, not just off the cliff.
When people hear the name Adolf Hitler, they often think of evil, war, and death. And honestly, for good reason. Hitler was the leader of Nazi Germany, and under his rule, the world saw one of the darkest times in history. During World War II, Hitler was responsible for the Holocaust, where over 6 million Jews were harmed just because of their religion and identity. They were taken to concentration camps, starved, tortured, and murdered. But it wasn't just the Jews. He also targeted disabled people, LGBTQ+ individuals, Roma, Gypsies, and anyone who didn't fit his idea of a perfect race. Before all this, Hitler was actually a struggling artist. He wanted to get into art school but got rejected. Slowly, he got involved in politics and became the leader of the Nazi Party in Germany. He used powerful speeches, propaganda, racism, and fear to rise to power. He promised to make Germany strong again after World War I, which had left the country in a really bad shape. People were angry, poor, and looking for hope, and Hitler gave them someone to blame: the Jews. That's how he brainwashed an entire country using lies and hate. In 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, which started World War II. Over the next few years, his army attacked many countries in Europe. The war ended in 1945, but by then, more than 70 million people had died worldwide. Cities were destroyed, millions of soldiers and innocent civilians were harmed, and millions more were left homeless and broken. In the end, Hitler died by suicide in his underground bunker as Allied forces closed in on Berlin. And while Hitler's crimes happened in the past, Osama bin Laden shook the modern world with just one terrifying act.
You have declared a jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
On September 11, 2001, members of bin Laden's terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airplanes. 2 of them were crashed into the World Trade Center towers in New York City. Another hit the Pentagon, which is the U.S. military's headquarters. The 4th plane was headed for another target, but crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after brave passengers fought back. In total, nearly 3,000 innocent people died that day. The world changed forever. Osama bin Laden didn't just plan this attack. He became a symbol of modern terrorism. His goal was to spread an extreme version of religion mixed with hate. He believed in creating a global war against countries he saw as enemies, especially the United States. But his ideology didn't stop there. It caused bombings, shootings, and attacks in the Middle East, Europe, and Africa too. Thousands of people died because of his influence. What's even scarier is how organized and well-funded his group was. Al-Qaeda had training camps, secret communication methods, and strong networks. Bin Laden used videos and messages to inspire more people to join his cause. And because of this, terrorism became more global and high-tech. After September 11th, the U.S. launched a massive manhunt to find him. It took almost 10 years. Finally, in May 2011, a group of U.S. Navy SEALs tracked him down to a house in Abbottabad, Pakistan. They raided the compound in the middle of the night and harmed bin Laden. His body was buried at sea. Now let's switch from terror to drugs, because the next criminal didn't just build a drug empire, he also escaped prison like it was a video game. Let's meet El Chapo.
Pues no había otra manera ni hay de sobrevivir y pues
Joaquin El Chapo Guzman is one of the most famous drug lords in the world, and honestly, his story sounds like something straight out of a Netflix crime show. He was born in a poor village in Mexico, and from a young age, he got involved in the drug trade. He eventually became the boss of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful and dangerous drug organizations in the world. This cartel was behind the smuggling of tons of cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and meth into the United States and many other countries. We're talking about billions of dollars in illegal drug money. But El Chapo wasn't just rich, he was ruthless. His cartel was responsible for thousands of murders, kidnappings, and acts of extreme violence. He used fear, bribes, and weapons to control areas, silence enemies, and stay ahead of the police. What made him really famous worldwide was how he kept escaping from prison. In 2001, he escaped by hiding in a laundry cart. Then, in 2015, he pulled off an insane escape again. This time, through a mile-long tunnel that started right under his shower in prison. The tunnel had lights, air ventilation, and even a motorcycle on rails to help him get away faster. It shocked the entire world. Even though he got caught again, the Sinaloa cartel kept running. That's how big and powerful his network was. In 2019, El Chapo was extradited to the US, put on trial in New York, and finally sentenced to life in prison. He's now locked up in a super high-security prison in Colorado that's basically escape-proof. But crime has evolved. Today's criminals don't need guns or tunnels, just a laptop and internet. Let's dive into the dangerous world of cybercriminals.
Also being hunted tonight is a man considered dangerous for what he does on the computer. Today, federal prosecutors charged a Russian man with running 2 hacking schemes that stole more than $100 million from victims in the United States.
Evgeny Bogachev, a Russian hacker who created something called the Game Over Zeus malware. It sounds like a video game, but it's actually a powerful computer virus. Once it got into someone's computer, it would steal bank logins and passwords. Bogachev and his group stole over $100 million just by clicking a few keys. Then there's North Korea's Lazarus Group, one of the most advanced hacking teams in the world. They're believed to be behind the Sony Pictures hack in 2014, where private emails, movie files, and even actor salaries were leaked. They also launched the WannaCry ransomware attack in 2017, which shut down hospitals, companies, and even government systems across the world. And more recently, they've been caught stealing millions in cryptocurrency. But it's not just big hackers going after governments or banks. Everyday people like you and me can be targets too. What makes cybercrime so scary is that it can happen anywhere, anytime, and most of the time you don't even realize it until it's too late. There are no fingerprints or crime scenes, just stolen data and drained accounts. But this next one used pure terror to attack people in their homes at night. Let's talk about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
These things, contribute to a person, to a person's frustration and anger.
Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, was one of the most feared serial killers in American history. He wasn't just dangerous, he was terrifying. His crimes happened in California during the mid-1980s, and the way he attacked people left the whole city of Los Angeles in panic. What made Ramirez so scary was how random and brutal he was. He didn't follow any pattern like most serial killers. He didn't have a type. He would break into homes in the middle of the night, and once inside, he would murder, hurt, or assault people. Men, women, even children. Some of his victims were elderly, while others were young. It didn't matter to him. He would also leave behind weird and creepy signs, like satanic symbols drawn on the walls, or he'd force his victims to swear to Satan. This made people even more terrified, like he wasn't just a killer. He was trying to be evil on purpose. Ramirez didn't try to hide his crimes much. He used the same shoes at multiple crime scenes and even left fingerprints. But still, it took time for the police to catch him, as the media started calling him the Night Stalker. Everyone in LA became scared to sleep at night. People locked their windows, bought guns, and stayed up all night just in case he came. In 1985, after one of his victims escaped and helped identify him, the police released his photo. Soon after, a group of regular people in a neighborhood recognized him and actually tackled him to the ground. They held him until police arrived. He was later convicted of 13 murders and many other crimes. During the trial, he showed no remorse. He even smiled and laughed in court, which made people hate him even more. He was sentenced to death, but he stayed on death row for over 20 years. In 2013, before the sentence was carried out, he died of cancer in prison. Now, not all criminals use violence. Some just wear fancy suits and steal billions with a smile. Up next is Bernie Madoff, the man behind the biggest money scam in history.
There's nothing to be proud about in this case. I feel horrible about the result. It's been a total disaster for the victims.
It began a decade ago when Marco Polis was working for a Boston investment firm.
Bernie Madoff didn't carry a gun, wear a mask, or break into houses. Instead, he wore suits, smiled on TV, and acted like a financial genius. But behind the scenes, he was running the biggest money scam in history. Madoff was a famous Wall Street investor and even served as the chairman of NASDAQ, which made him look super successful and trustworthy. Rich people, celebrities, charities, and even schools gave him their money to invest. They believed they'd get great returns because Madoff always showed high profits on paper. But here's the truth. It was all fake. Madoff was running a Ponzi scheme, which is a type of scam where you take money from new investors and use it to pay older ones. So when people asked for their profits, he just gave them money from other new investors. No real investing was happening. For years, it worked. People were happy because they thought their money was growing. He even fooled government watchdogs who were supposed to catch scams like this. Everyone thought Madoff was a financial genius. But in 2008, when the economy crashed and lots of people started asking for their money back at the same time, Madoff's entire scam fell apart. He couldn't pay them because the money wasn't really there. It had either been used to pay others or simply vanished. He admitted everything to his sons, who then reported him to the FBI. The total amount of money lost, around $65 billion. That's billion with a B. It was the largest Ponzi scheme ever. In 2009, Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison, which basically meant he would die behind bars. And he did. He died in 2021 at the age of 82 from kidney failure. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video like this.